the Obsession Podcast. Mike Stadler here.
Carl Bethke here. How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
What do we got this week, Mike?
We got a couple here that we're going to put together. One is, have you used decoys, and how do you tell to use a buck or a doe?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to throw in with that deer calls. Do you use them? When, how, and which call to use? Kind of similar stuff here together anyway, so.
All right. Well, why don't you start out the decoy part of it?
Have I used decoys? Yes.
Have you been successful?
Yes.
Do you like using decoys?
Yes.
All right.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And when might that be? That's the other part of it. So
I love to use decoys early in the rut. And when I say early in the rut, I'm talking posturing,
yep.
attitude bucks, establishing dominance, not seeking phase, but getting cranked up. I always like to say I love them when they're looking to fight.
Late pre-rut.
Yes,
Last week of October.
that is my favorite time to use decoys,
Last week of October, first week of November.
and it's actually the only time I usually use decoys.
Me too.
I love it. They are looking, and when they are pissed off, there's nothing better than that. If you have a decoy out. You know, does it work 100% of the time? No.
No, it doesn't.
Sure does not.
Not even
It can
close.
it can backfire on you just as fast as any call.
And the size of the deer usually doesn't matter. The
No.
younger deer usually come right to the decoy.
That is a fact. You can get any young buck to come to a decoy.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times they'll even smell and stay there.
Oh yeah.
Here, but
Hang out with.
you know, and how do you tell to use a buck or a doe? I think I've only tried one or two times to have a doe like bedded next to the buck.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the places that I hunted at that point, you couldn't see it anyway,
Right.
unless that deer was right there. Just because of the lay of that property.
I think.
I've stuck with the buck.
Yeah, straight buck decoy. I have tried the doe decoy, and to me, they were real leery. They did not like that.
Yeah.
The doe is usually moving around or whatever. I got one of them, just so you know, I went and bought one of them flicking tails
Oh, there
that
you
you
go.
can control.
Nice.
Well, I thought the tail movement would help. That it did.
No, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, well, it's kind of cool to push the button.
Gives you something to do.
Yeah.
When
Ooh.
you're screwing off.
Look at me go. Yeah. Film it with the camera
Yeah.
for the show. Like, ooh, look at my tail flicks.
Wow, there's a 116
Yeah.
buck standing behind you.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, I
Buck decoys, when a buck comes to a buck decoy, and I'm talking a mature deer, he's coming in there to beat his ass. And he's going to be aggressive. Well, number one, it's cool to experience. Number two, you have to have your decoy set correctly.
yeah, this is just what I was going to get into. So, Carl, let me ask you something. How do you stand your decoy?
Me?
Yeah.
I kind of like when I decoy kind of quartering at me a little bit because I want that quartering away shot.
Huh.
On my left-hand side, because I'm a right-handed shooter and I hold my bow in my left hand. Now our buddy Phil, who's here right now, Phil, he's backwards. He's a lefty,
Yeah.
so he'd want to do it off to his
the
right.
other way. And I'll ask you another question. Do you like to face that deer on your left side, say,
Yeah.
into the wind,
Me?
away from the wind?
Well,
Don't care
Yeah, I
which way
don't-
the wind's going?
you don't want that buck to be circling around downwind of anything.
Huh.
I mean, I'm just tossing that out
That's
there.
crazy. I wanted to ask you because I don't know.
Really?
So I wanted to...
You asking me?
Yeah, I've seen, and Carl's seen, a lot of people use a decoy. And I've seen it on the TV shows. And I'm like, why in the hell is that decoy set up that way?
Yeah.
You are never going to get a shot at him.
Nope.
Because that buck is going to want to circle that deer.
Yeah, and they'll do it at 150
Yeah.
yards.
And they'll start their
Yeah.
sashaying out, a long ways out.
Oh, yeah.
But they're going to come around the front of that deer.
Well, how many times have we seen that in an open bean field where we set a decoy and that buck comes out at like 80 yards to our right, but walks all the way out to 150,
Yep.
stays way out around that other side just to scent check that.
Yep.
And then everybody knows how we feel about scents. So you spray your decoys down, but do you spray scent all over the place?
I do not. I spray scent off of them.
Yep. I do not want any scent out there at all.
Yep.
So
yeah, make sure you can have a shot. I see people face them. I've seen people face them right at them.
yeah,
How are you going to get a shot at that deer? The deer is not most likely going to walk up to you and then turn sideways to the deer and then turn back around again and walk around in front of him.
here's the other thing about a decoy. You know, that's a really good point. The other thing about a decoy is when a buck's aggressive, his body is moving. He's not just going to come up and stand there.
No, you're going to have to make a shot on
Yeah.
most
And
likely
you
a
may-
walking deer.
Yeah, and
or
you're probably
sidestepping deer.
sidestepping, and that may not be the most optimal angle you think you're gonna want to have.
No.
You know, and I'm gonna tell you right now, if they get close to that decoy, and I don't care how much what you spray on it or anything like that, it's a mature deer. He is not gonna like it. Either he's gonna slam it with his rack for
Right
5
away.
or 10 feet,
Yeah.
or he's gonna come up close and all of a sudden, boom, he's gonna
gone.
just haul up.
So your shots, you have to be ready.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
if it's coming to the decoy, get ready.
Yep.
Because that's the one good thing about a decoy is they're not paying attention to you,
No.
which is one nice thing.
Yeah, and that's that's the best part about the decoy. You know, the other part about using decoys is, you know, we have to use calls,
Yep.
and
And
we use them.
we have a lot of decoy footage.
We do,
We
and
have
I'll be showing a bunch of
lot
that.
of deer dead over decoys. I've killed a lot of bucks over decoys.
Yeah.
We killed one of our best videos way back in the day.
with that 8-pointer you shot.
I think we recorded it on beta.
Beta. I don't know if it. I know I had a 40-pound camera on my
The
shoulder.
camera weighed 600 pounds. It's like having
We
a
worried
50
more,
cal on your shoulder.
worried more about hiding the camera than we did ourselves in
We
the
needed
tree.
like 6 300-year-old oaks to hide that thing.
Yeah, that was awesome back then.
Yeah, reel to reel.
Right? Well, that part of that, you know, you shot that deer that year.
Oh, here he is. 8-pointer.
What was that? That was October.
That was
wasn't it?
October.
Late October.
We're really losing light fast.
And that
shot
was
him
in a
anyway.
picked. That was a
Behind
picked feed field. We
We-
set that out in the open.
Well, we made a whole move.
Yeah.
We sat the night before and I was hunting and
Yeah.
you were filming.
Yep.
And we called in that big 8-pointer out into that field.
Yep.
And he would not come into
No.
the tree line no matter what I did.
No, he didn't care.
So the next day, because we're smart,
Right. That one time,
that one time,
we nailed it that day.
we went and hung it and we went and we
Hang and bang, baby.
yeah, put the decoy out, which happened to be a 3D target at the time because we're so rich.
That thing is, no, it's junk.
Yeah.
It's actually laying over at the other property in Fox Lake. It's still out in the woods, I think.
Oh yeah, probably in the.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's probably a nest for
Yeah,
something.
it's most likely.
But that thing, we put that out that night. Mike called that 8-pointer and it killed him.
Yeah. And we had 2 does right in front of that decoy.
Oh, they stood there all night.
They stood there all night by that decoy. They did not care.
Yep.
That buck came straight up to that decoy,
And he got thumped.
and he got thumped.
And then he ran 400 yards with a double lung shot.
At least.
There was no blood left in that deer, dude. That was it. But we called that deer too. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
So bringing in the
deer calls.
Deer calls part of it.
We've touched on deer calls on another podcast, I
Right.
know.
I think, you know, I used to use a can call, just so you guys know. I had a can call. I still carry a can call, but I don't think I used it at all last year. to be
I'm the
honest.
same way. I did not use my can call at all last year.
I'm almost thinking that the deer are starting to get used to it. It's like the old elk call that everybody had, the hoochie mama.
Yeah, the hoochie mama, baby.
Get your hoochie mama.
Just all day.
Yeah, those elk did not respond to that because every brother and their sister and everybody else out west had one, and they all stood outside their house and they went meow, 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 meow. Those calls, I think the deer are starting to get wise to them too.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think last year was probably one of the first years I never tipped a can call.
Nope, me either.
Your place, my place, the other properties, never. I just didn't do it.
And we've gone through many different types of buck grounds,
Yes.
and we've come to the conclusion the one that we like the most,
Buck roar.
the buck roar.
Primos.
Buck roar.
You're welcome, Will.
Yep.
Hey, Will Primos, don't forget to that we mentioned you there.
Hit us up.
Yeah.
Hit us up. But sound wise, I think it's probably the most controllable call that's out there. It's got the rubber neck on it. You can get it's got a really long 2-inch reed in it, and your ability to move that reed up and down on that control allows you to hit many different tones. And even if you're in a deep tone, you can squeeze hard enough to increase so it's a little bit higher pitch to make it sound like there's more than one in the area. The one thing I've known or found out about big deer is the majority of the mature bucks, real big mature bucks, they do have a throaty call. You know, you can tell the difference between.
You know it when you hear one of those.
Yeah.
Because that's the.
Last year in that bedding area at my place, and I couldn't see him, and I could hear him chasing that doe up and down that ridge.
When you hear a buck like that call, you feel that down in the plums. You're like, I know that's a big boy back there.
Yeah, the hair on the back of the neck stands up, the plums begin to tingle.
Plums a little swole.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's got that snort wheeze on the top too. If you. Right. And I'm not going to tell people to go out and snort wheeze.
No, don't be snort wheezing at every deer, every buck you see at 200 yards. I'm like, that does not work.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Come on, every one of them that comes out. Let's just do it.
It's the panic effect.
I know.
I don't know how many people I've seen it, all kinds of videos on YouTube, all kinds of stuff. Look, if you call to a deer at 100 yards and he doesn't hear you, or even look your way.
Just stop.
Yeah. Hit him twice, 3 times at the most, but you have to increase your volume every time. If you go, nah, and then you go, brah, and then the very last one, brah, don't go, because he don't care.
Yeah.
And if it's a mature deer, he's probably just going to walk away at a high rate of speed.
I say this to a ton of people. Buddy Phil that's sitting here has heard me say this a million times. Less is more. I say it a ton of times.
That's a fact.
They heard you.
Oh, yeah.
They heard you. Like, they don't have to spin their head around like they're the exorcist.
No.
And like, who did that come from? Not that they won't. But trust me, they heard you.
Oh, yeah.
Unless they're 500 yards away and you're grunting at them then already.
Yeah, and I've gone to that heavy wind where I went back.
And it's I
they
think
finally hear you.
One thing too that I know we both used to do it is the blind, the blind calling, and we think we've got away from it
more than anything. Yeah.
More than anything, and I'm not going to say that it
really
can't be beneficial.
It depends on where you're hunting.
But yeah, it depends on where you hunt.
Your location. So if you're hunting in let's just say you're in a tree line, an open field, kind of. And there's a wood line, let's just say 100 and 150 yards away from you. And you can see both sides, you're just on that transition zone where those deer transfer from wood line to wood line. Okay? I don't think blind calling in that situation is as bad, especially if you're using a decoy.
For sure. Someplace that they cannot see you from a distance.
If you're tight, don't blind call.
No, don't do it.
Ever. Because if they hear you, they're going to circle down you. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, this was the other thing I was going to say when we were talking a little bit earlier, is that deer that's ignoring you or what you think is ignoring you, he's probably not ignoring you if you start paying close attention to the wind. Because 9 times out of 10, he's like, okay, he'll glance over or whatever, he'll assess his wind direction, what's best for him, and he'll walk 200 yards around downwind of you. And you'll never see him, but he's scent checking you.
Yep. Yeah, so, I for sure, if I'm going to blind call, I'm going to be someplace deep.
Oh, yeah.
Where they got to come in to see where it's from.
100%.
You
want them to be searching for you.
Yeah. And I think that a lot comes to which calls to use. Like, I'm not going to rattle sitting in an open field with nothing out in front of me. Because you might just go back home.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're going to stand at whatever edge or whatever tree line or corn line or whatever and go.
And we both rattle.
Oh, yeah. We're big advocates of using
Carl uses horns. I use rattle bags more.
Yep.
We both had success with it. But it's knowing where to do it. Like, I'm not going to sit in my bottom stand, which is about an acre, which is open. They can see into it and rattle.
Yeah. No, right.
Because they can see that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Now, say your property up where you killed shocker last year.
Mm-hmm.
You could rattle out of that.
Oh yeah,
because they can't see in there
no.
until it's too late.
Right.
You know, because that deer's going to be 35 yards or in.
Well, shocker, for instance, I called him in.
Yeah.
I mean, he went
see,
up on that ridge.
Couldn't see in that plot.
And that doe came. I seen he had a doe. I called, the doe came through on the edge of the plot.
Yep.
He was up on top, and he knows he could cut around that backside and cut her off, but she stopped. So then I went at him, and he's like, "Whoa, somebody's down there with my woman."
Yeah. And
he started to come. He stopped about halfway again, and I hit him with a real low throaty grunt again. Tick, 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 tick. And as soon as I did that, his ears went straight back, and he came down. But he only came to the point where he exposed himself.
Yeah. But
so he could
enough.
see. Well, that's too close.
It was enough. Yeah.
So I
did you keep calling though?
No.
You didn't start can calling?
No. As soon as I seen him.
Snort wheezing?
No. Well, the first time I called, I seen him and he looked, right? And you got to be able to. That's the best thing about calling. Blind calling. That's what makes it dangerous. Is you can't see the reaction of the deer.
Yep.
With a big mature deer or something like that, I want to see his reaction.
Yep.
So I called to him. He knew his doe was down here. He's like, "There's another buck down there."
Yep.
And he started to come. He cut the distance halfway where he could partly see into that plot, and he couldn't see the other corner because it's so thick right there. I hit him again.
Mm-hmm.
Just a real short one.
Yep.
And that's when he came and exposed his shoulder, and I killed his ass.
Yeah. Correct.
Correct.
I was there.
Right. Well, I was a little freaked out for a while,
And
but we did okay.
And I know you remember this because you've been out on that property with me several times in Fox Lake, where I have that stand, that far corner where that marsh edge is. I'm set in the pine woods.
Yep.
I got that marsh off the front in the island, and I have blind called a lot of big bucks out of there that I've killed at that stand because they come out of that island and into that marsh, and they know it's coming from in the woods.
Yeah.
But they cannot see in there.
I think you killed 4 bucks out of there. 5 of them.
I killed 4 or 5 bucks out of there, and because they came right in. Where the hell's that coming from? I quit calling because you see him step out in the marsh, and I'm like, now I'm done.
Yep.
He's already interested. He's coming in.
Oh yeah.
That's a great spot to do it.
Yeah. Make sure if you see a deer start to come, you don't keep calling.
Yeah.
Because he's interested, and he's probably he's searching for you, and that puts you at the advantage.
I think people get impatient.
Yeah.
You know, and I did it last year, dude, and I was so mad at myself. I told you that night. I'm like, I couldn't shut my damn mouth.
Yeah, you'd have killed Rat if he would have just shut up.
You know, 160, 70-inch 10-pointer, and I got anxious. You know, and I've done this a long time.
Well, he turned and he started coming towards you.
He did.
And then you hit him again.
And I hit him again, and it was, that ended it.
That's when he crossed the creek.
And that's when he crossed the creek and circled around me.
Yep.
With no shot. You know, so less is more.
Less is more for sure. I think the other times I remember, well, I killed that little 9-pointer, that decent 9-pointer out there at the lease. You filmed it.
Yeah.
And we called him in the whole time. He was, 90 yards away from us?
Yeah, we blind called him because he couldn't see where we were.
Right.
And he came the far edge. But he came to see.
Yeah, he worked his way back and forth through all that thick stuff.
Yeah.
You filmed it, and I killed him at 20 yards.
Yeah. He got close enough to see.
Oh, yeah. He didn't get too far after that.
No, he did not.
Yeah. And then the other buck, and which I used a decoy on too, was at my place. You remember the buck, that big 8-pointer I call Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Because I shot him on
Halloween.
Yeah. And that was on the edge of this big swamp line, and there's some pines in there. I had a food plot set up on this edge, and I rattled, and I could see him on the far side. I called one time, and he came straight underneath that pine, and I zipped him at 4 yards.
Yep.
He went up and stood by the decoy.
And you shot him again.
Well, I'm not going to stop shooting. He looked at that decoy like, holy cow, how did you hit me?
Ain't happening. How many arrows did you and I both put in my mule deer up there?
There's a few in that deer.
He had 5 or 6
hey, you're
by
welcome.
the time we quit. We ain't letting it go. You know,
Here you can see where my
your situation where you're at is always going to dictate that, and calls can hurt you just as much as they can help you.
And same with decoys.
Every deer's attitude's going to be different, and it can change day to day. So it's really an experiment thing. But if you're doing it, you know, in the right places and times, it's going to benefit you more. You know, there's going to be people out there that are going to. You could argue this. We could argue this for hours.
Oh yeah.
With people, but you know, had success with it. I've killed 2 back here over Decoy.
Yep.
You have the footage of them. The
Yep,
very
I'm
first
gonna
one
show
I
you
killed
guys.
here.
Yep,
I
I'll
killed
show you
another
guys
one
some
here
of that.
over Decoy. You and I have killed them together at Decoys. You've killed them on your own with Decoys.
Yep.
We've carried so many damn decoys around.
And long ways.
You know.
A long ways.
So I'm a huge fan of them. I'm not a fan of a doe decoy really. It's never really benefited me. I like calls, but I use them at the right times.
Yep. For me, I'm going to tell you right now, I think the best productive time for decoys is the last week of October, first week of November. After that, I won't throw them out there.
No, I don't even get mine out of the box until October 25th, probably.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Vacation time.
Last 7, yeah. Rutcation.
Vacation.
Yeah, the killing time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and your deer calls, you know, I say work with them, know how to use them. You know how to use your grunts. You know, they can be hugely beneficial. I know I sat a night with my buddy Phil last year, and I called a giant 8-pointer. He was, I don't know, 500-600 yards away, and I got him to probably 70. You know, and Phil seen him, and he was a big deer, and I said he's going to circle us, and when unless he comes straight out, we're not going to kill him. He's going to circle us, and he did. Yeah, and he was gone, but
it's because he didn't see him.
Yeah, he came that far. He got far enough. You know, there was a little ridge in front of us where he could see where those calls were coming from, and he's like, "Yeah, nothing here. I'm gone." You know, but you know, we called him that far. Now, had he been set up in a stand 100 yards in front of me, you know, and I'm calling way back behind him, the way that deer came, that deer's dead. But
with whitetails, that's a tough call. It's not like elk.
But you don't know. Yeah.
I mean, elk are coming to the call, and they can't see a damn thing. And they're not afraid of anything.
You can sit behind and call.
Yeah.
You know, people that and we've called for each other.
Oh yeah.
A ton of times when we've hunted together.
Yep.
You know, because it's one less thing the other guy's got to do, and obviously, you got to trust the guy that's calling for you.
Oh yeah.
That he knows what he's doing, and he's not, you know, just snort wheezing and rattling and throwing cam calls and.
This is one thing that drives me nuts about the TV shows. I'm just gonna throw this out, short rant on this one.
Short rant.
Okay. So when you listen to a whitetail in the wild, he's not going around going bad, 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 right?
No, not unless he's chasing a doe during the rut.
Right. So, and when they actually have different tones during the vocalist. So the same deer can go bad, or it can go bad, or make another noise, or they click when they're tending.
Click.
You'll hear the click.
Clicking,
you know, when you hear us go tick 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 tick. That's a buck tending a doe, and that's exactly what they sound like. It's just like turkey calling. You got to be able to use the right call at the right time. I don't know all their tones and their sounds or whatever, but I know the basics for whitetails. And you can get deer to respond with the basics, but they're not monotone. They don't just sit there and go, it's like a human talking to you. If a human just talking at the same tone all the time, it gets real boring, right? Really quick. It's the same with a deer call. Same with a deer call. So realize that, like Mike said, check or play with your calls to see if you can get the different tones and how to figure it out. And trust me, under stress, you'd be surprised how unsuccessful you will be. Right. That or your call gets really cold.
Yeah.
Keeping your call fairly warm is important. The rubber has to be flexible.
I've had them, the reeds will freeze in there.
Oh yeah.
Just from the spit in your mouth of throwing a couple calls and all, you know, it's 30, 25 degree morning and all of a sudden and there ain't nothing coming out of it.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know,
Yep.
I think a Sasquatch is coming.
And that's an important one too. I always keep my calls inside one of my pockets. And
You shouldn't, I think, and I know you agree, you probably shouldn't even have a call out of your pack until October 20th.
Yeah, oh God, no.
I mean, you shouldn't be, you better not be calling in September.
No.
You know, if you do, I'd like to know where you're at, because I want to hunt around there.
Well, exactly.
Those
On the
deer are
neighboring
gone.
property, yeah.
So feel free to let us know.
Yeah.
If you want to experiment with calls early, we'll hunt around you.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
We'll take any benefit we can get.
Yeah, yeah. Don't be vocal at the wrong time of year because it's not going to get you an animal. I can guarantee you that. And then early season, I'm going to say if you try early season calling, you're going to be trying on an immature deer. You're not going to be calling on a mature deer.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever your goal is, I guess that's up to you too. You know, I'm not saying, You know, if you have a 1.5-year-old buck at 200 yards and you want to call to him to see if you can get him over there because that's the animal you want to shoot, then hey, more power to you. Go ahead and do it. A younger deer will be fine. But you have a 5-year-old deer at 200 yards and you call to him, I can guarantee he's going to walk the other way.
Because at 5, he's been called to for 5 years.
Well, here in Wisconsin, for sure.
Yeah. If he's 5 here, he's one of the smartest animals you're ever going to see.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the things that I've noticed lately, too. Everybody talks about how much pressure Michigan has on it for, hunters. Yeah, they have a lot of hunters. We have a lot of hunters here in Wisconsin, too. The deer here in Wisconsin are probably just as pressured as the whitetails, I think.
We have. I saw a statistic the other day. We have 600,000 plus people just that buy gun tags. 600,000.
Yep, and there's 100 and some thousand vertical bow hunters plus whatever crossbow.
Right.
So I wouldn't say we're too far behind.
Think of that next time you're out there and you don't see a deer during gun season, then you know why.
Yeah. Yeah, Wisconsin's got a really good deer herd. We've got a lot of deer. We can't blame not seeing deer on the herd itself, honestly. So it's probably the way that some of us hunt. So that's how that works out. But decoy-wise, yes, we believe in them. Yes, we've shot deer over them. Buck decoys.
Yeah, we both prefer buck.
Yeah. Doe decoys, not something I would try. I am going to show you guys a little bit of footage of JR using a doe decoy here. And you can see what happened on that experience. And then deer calls themselves.
Yeah, we like the buck roar from Primos. Yep. We both have them. I got Phil one 2 years ago, I think.
Yep.
He uses two. I mean, we have backups to our deer calls, if that tells you anything.
I think we each probably have 4.
Yeah. The can calls we did use.
Yeah. I still carry it, but I don't use it.
I have 2 of them. I have a bigger one and a small one that I carry.
Yeah.
I haven't used them. And horns, real horns, or bags, both work. And again, it's all the timing. So.
Well, the one thing I'll say about rattling, it doesn't matter the size of the deer by what you're rattling. I've got a great big set of antlers I use.
You got to brag about it.
And Mike's got a great big bag.
You got a big bag of wood.
Big wood.
Big bag of wood, baby.
And it doesn't matter. I've rattled 150-inch deer in, and I've rattled 60-inch deer in. And Mike's done the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's the bag or the horns. You don't get just because you got a big set of rattling horns doesn't mean because they sound a little bit different to us that you're going to rattle in a bigger deer. That's not how it works.
I think a lot of things why people see you have a bigger set of horns to rattle. It's not the size of the horns. It's because they're easier to put in your hands and use.
I'm not slamming. I'm not slamming my hands.
You're not going to tink together, a little 6-pointer rack and smash your thumbs all out. And usually you'll see the brow tines are cut off.
You could always get you some David rattlers.
I made you a good set of those years ago, and those things got to go at least 10 inches a piece. They're big.
Like salads.
Yeah. Well, they're not that big.
They're awesome.
So we can wrap that one up.
We're going to wrap that one up right now. Thanks for listening to The Obsession, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the questions. You guys get a chance, check us out on YouTube. Give us a subscription. It's Rush Outdoors, WI, Wisconsin. That's what it stands for. And we can also be heard on the RSS feed and under The Obsession. Also on Spotify.